another attack? After I've already defeated him? After I've already beat him, I gotta fight him again? Ooh, the church don't prepare you for that. The church don't prepare you for that. We think once we done, and we done, okay, that's, I'm just go eat some Lay's potato chips and go to sleep. Now, I've been in warfare. But you must be all kinds of crazy if you think your devil's coming at you one way and leaving you. Some of you got some real devils. When you stand up in strength, the Bible is right. He do resist you. I mean, he do flee from you when you resist him. But he regroup. He backs away from you. He give you a little space. He say, I'll be back next week. Let's move prophetically with it. Get 2 Samuel chapter 5. Oh, we give you the praise. Honor where honors due, all the elders, ecclesia, first lady, everybody. Praise the worship team. 2 Samuel chapter 5, beginning at verse 17. And I guess I'm going to abbreviate this message, hoop it, preach it, treat it, and get on down. Hey, glory to God. Because something's already cooking. Ain't no sense in me competing with it. God done turned up that temperature and we sweating now. Hey. Are y'all at 2 Samuel chapter 5? Glory to God. Beginning at verse 17. Now I need you to really lean in on this because I'm going to say more than I got time to say. You got he that has an ear, she that has an ear. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. Because this word is more prophetic and more timely for this house and for these people than I have time to express. Here it is. But the Philistines heard that they had anointed David king over Israel. And all the Philistines came up to seek David, and David heard of it and went down to the hole. The Philistines came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim, and David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go up to the Philistines? Wilt thou deliver them into mine hand? And the Lord said, go up. I will doubtless deliver the Philistines into thine hand. And David came to Baal Perazim, and David smote them there, and said, the Lord hath broken forth upon mine enemies before me, as the breach of waters. Therefore he called the name of the place Baal Perazim. And there they left their images, and David and his men burned them. And the Philistines came up again. Somebody shout again. And spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And when David inquired of the Lord, he said, thou shalt not go up, but fetch a compass behind them and come upon them over against the mulberry trees. And let it be when thou hearest the sound of a going and the top of the mulberry trees, that then thou shalt bestir thyself. For then shall the Lord go out before thee and smite the host of the Philistines. And David did so as the Lord had commanded him, and smote the Philistines from Geba until the coming of Gezer. Would you give God a praise for the reading of his word today? And just shout with me after this. You can be seated in the presence of the Lord. After this victory, after this battle, this victory is marking the change of a season forever. Our text opens with a significant moment in David's life. If you know what's going on, David has already been anointed privately by Samuel, but he's also been on the run from Saul. Anointed to be the king, but he's having to fight some character assassinations and some all-out attacks. He's been hiding in caves and wondering how and when God was going to manifest and bring forth the things that he had said. But now he's no longer in those caves. He's no longer running from Saul. And I want to stop right there to tell somebody your season has changed, whether you know it or not. There was a time some things had you on the run. Oh, yes, it did. Trying to live down some mistakes, trying to get some stuff off of your trail. But look at now. Look at the season you're in now. David is now being established as the king over Israel. What God spoke all those years ago is coming to pass. Look at your neighbor and say, it's going to come to pass for you. But the moment he got elevated, the Philistines heard about it. They came looking for him. And I want you to hold on to that, because everything else is going to begin to make sense behind that revelation. Everybody wants to be elevated. Everybody wants the next level. But somebody write it down as your forever reminder. With every new level comes a new devil. Yeah, David he finally got there. God told him he was going to be king, but he is king. But what he did not anticipate is that the warfare was going to intensify. The moment he got promoted, the moment he came into it, the moment it was announced, David is become the king. That by itself was going to stir up some new enemies. I want every intercessor to lean in, every prayer warrior, every prophetic voice, every preacher, hear me. Every new level will bring with it its own new devils. You in this text with me? Okay. Now, this is what I want us to pay attention to, because I believe God has given us something to navigate this next season of elevation and to travail and prevail through every warfare that comes with it. If this anointing get us into it, look at somebody, say the same anointing go bring us through it. Sometimes, having oil on your head, being promoted, and wearing favor is what gets you into trouble. Somebody don't believe that. They still think when somebody get in trouble, well, they must have did something. How many of you still think when hard times happen to people, they must have did something? Tell the truth, shame the devil. How many of your first thought when calamity hit them is, God don't like ugly? Especially if they did something to you. If they ain't speak to you yesterday, be like, I told them God don't play by me. Right? We love to think that God is getting somebody together when hard times and calamity hits their life. But Proverbs says, whoa, don't rejoice in another man's calamity. I want to tell whoever you are that think it's cool and think it's wonderful to laugh at folks when they're going under. You better be careful. Not everybody who's going through hard times, not everybody who's being persecuted, not everybody that a rumor mill got started about it. Is it truth to it? Sometimes promotion is at hand. Ooh, don't nothing make nobody hate on you like promotion. I ain't got time to deal with it, but sometimes it'll be your own folks hate on you when you get the right kind of, okay, some of you know what I'm talking about. You fooled around and got too much money on your income tax one year. Okay. Everybody changed up on you. You fooled around and got married a little bit before everybody else, but they couldn't stand you till they got their boo. Sometimes folks just don't like it when you're blessed, when you're promoted, and they all right with it as long as they being promoted too. But if you get it before they do, oh, okay, y'all got some good folks in y'all lives, praise God. But most of us just with regular folks, and regular folks struggle. If they don't have the mind of Christ, it's hard for some people to look at you and celebrate what God is doing in your life. They didn't see all the years that you was on the backside of the mountain. They don't see all the years you was running away from us all. They didn't see where you was living in a cave. They don't see all of that time where God had anointed you and you were not promoted. You were still in the trenches. You were still fighting battles. You were still being cautious about every move. But the moment you step into your light, that's when the Philistines heard what's going on. David's about to show us something. Because on the surface level, you would think this is just about David getting into another fight and winning. But it's not just about David getting in another fight and winning. There's something that's said right out the gate, and I want you to write it down as your first point, because previous victories give us a lot of confidence. David's already been kicking butt. He's been kicking butt since he came on the scene. He started with lions and bears, and then his national conquest was Goliath. Don't get no better than that. And then we've read through Ziklag. They thought they was doing something. David went and got every bit of it back. His wives, his kids, his stuff, everything, right? So this man can fight. Oh, he can fight. But this season of his life is not about the fighting as much as it is his submission, his willingness to follow the Lord. The first thing the text tells us is the Philistines here today. Baal praised him, which means Lord of the breakthrough. Something so significant happened in David's life. He stopped for a moment and said, I just got to praise God for being a God of breakthrough. He knows how to deliver me. He knows when to deliver me. He is faithful like that. Somebody ought to just throw up your hands and thank him. He's Lord of the... Yes, brothers and sisters, he has that testimony now. He's seen God do things that no one else has seen. All right, but your last victory was not the last victory. I'm going to say it one more time. Your last victory was not the last victory. The victory was real. That door really did open. God really did break through. The enemy really was defeated. God really did make a way. But verse 22 changes the conversation. Look at it. But the Philistines came up yet. Yet again. Another attack. After I've already defeated them. After I've already beat them, I got to fight them again. Ooh, the church don't prepare you for that. The church don't prepare you for that. We think once we done, and we done, okay, that's, I'm just go eat some Lay's potato chips and go to sleep. Now I've been in warfare. But you must be all kinds of crazy. If you think your devil's coming at you one way and leaving you alone. Some of you got some real devils. When you stand up in strength, the Bible is right. He do resist you. I mean, he do flee from you when you resist him. But he regroup. He backs away from you. He give you a little space. He say, I'll be back next week. When she ain't so holy. She been in church today. Ooh, they were shouting all day. Let me give her a few hours to the glory lift. He come back after your nap. Because you know after the nap, you don't, okay. After the nap, you got to start over from the ground again. I don't know what happened to all that glory up here, but when you go to sleep, don't you just come back earthly? The devil said, I'm going to wait till after that nap. When the glory lifts, and he'll come for you with everything he has. Verse 22 says he came yet again. Somebody shout yet again. The same enemy, the same enemy, the same enemy, but a different attack. The same enemy with a different attack. You're not about to meet strangers in this season. Some of you are about to see some encores of the same demons you beat in previous seasons. You did beat that joker and you told him you didn't want to talk to him again. But somehow in this season, they find you again. Okay, y'all gonna walk with me in a little bit. It's about to be cold outside again. Some of them devils gonna be on repeat. And I'm gonna need you to stand your ground. You already beat that battle. I must be preaching harder than some people want me to be preaching today. Right? You've already beat that one. You've already conquered that one. You've already been through that. And you discerned then it was no good for you. You discerned then that two can't walk together unless they agree. Ain't nothing changed about the agreement. Ain't nothing changed about the destination. Don't be deceived. Same enemy, different attack. David has the testimony. He knows what God will do. All right. He already has a name for the place that God gave him a breakthrough. But the enemy still comes back. And I want you to know a previous victory does not eliminate present opposition. And some of you are going to have to snap out of it. You're going to have to stop talking about what you've already been through and focus on what you're going through right now. Just because you won before doesn't mean you win now unless you settle down and hear the instructions for now. David's elevation does not eliminate the warfare. It exposes him to a different level of warfare. I told you with each new level comes a new devil. And there's seasons where the opposition you encounter is not evidence that you miss God. It is the opposition that is confirming for you that your position changed. And I'm going to tell somebody, without certain levels of warfare, you don't even know you leveled up. You don't even know your name changed in the spirit. You don't even know God brought you into a new place. Without the warfare, you don't really know that the oil that was applied to your head has meaning. It's one thing for oil to be on your head in the natural. It's another thing for that oil to signal something in the spirit. You got to get into biblical prophecy to understand how significant it was that David is being anointed. It is a prophetic fulfillment that there would be a messianic figure on that throne to lead Israel. And David is starting it out. He's the first of that messianic prophecy that's being fulfilled. And all of heaven and earth recognizes this ain't no ordinary promotion. Oh, I ain't got time to preach it like I feel it. Some of y'all still think I'm getting promoted on a job. Baby, the job is the bare minimum. You have no idea. You still think God gave you a whole life to go to work? Look, the job is the bare minimum. I want to tell somebody there is a spiritual promotion that ain't got nothing to do with a paycheck. It's an elevation. It's a graduation. It's an awareness of who you are in this body and what you came to do here. You don't hear me in this house. Some of you still think the promotion has to do with next level status in this world. When you get this awakening, you will opt out of status in this world because you know that he that came the greatest came to serve, and his serving was his status. He wanted the status of a... When it wakes up in you, I don't have anybody in this house. Something shifts about your perspective. David wasn't just anointed to take status. He was anointed to take position. And when you start waking up to take position, that's when you're a threat to the devil. That's when hell starts getting nervous. That's when generational curses start waking up in your family, because now you are threats. You ain't never been a threat with them little few dollars you got. You think you're the first one to get some money? Money ain't never been able to save this family. You think money is the answer to the crisis in this world? You still think status is what's going to make the difference in this life? Brothers and sisters, it is the anointing of God that comes upon our head that changes us. That's what makes a difference in this world. I got to hurry up and finish this thing. David gets to this new level and new devils come, but he inquires of the Lord again. Look at somebody and say, I don't care how many times it takes, ask and ask again. I thought to myself the other day, how many unnecessary battles did I fight for ridiculous amounts of time because I didn't stop and ask again. I know how I won the last battle, so I thought I was going to win this battle the same way. I didn't even ask again. I just started fasting. I'm just going to pull back from the world. I know what I need to do. I know you don't. How do you know what you need to do? How can you employ your own strategy in a spiritual battle? One time I called my spiritual father up. I was going through so much, and he listened to me. He said, now listen, son, you got to remember, you can't fight a spiritual battle in the flesh. If it was a fleshly battle, then go on and put your boxing gloves on. But if it's a spiritual battle, you're going to have to settle yourself down and walk by the Spirit. What did God say? What is God saying? How did God say pray? What was the unction? What was the hunch that you got in your spirit? If it was a flesh and blood battle, maybe you could use a YouTube clip. Maybe you could find a philosopher. But when it's a spiritual battle, look at somebody and say, you got to fight that thing in the Spirit. Yeah, you got to submit to God. Some of you are going through the type of stuff right now. If it was natural, you would have fixed it. Come on now. Come on. How long you been trying to get out that rut? How long you been trying to turn those emotions from negative to positive? How long you been trying to break that habit? If it was physical, you would have done it by now. If it was just about willpower. Come on, man. I know I'm weak some days, but not every day. Some days I got some willpower. Some days I know that I know. When I tell myself I ain't. But then there's some days, good God from Zion. No matter how much I will to do good, evil be present. And sometimes the thing that I would do, I do not. I'm in Romans chapter 7 for somebody that want to know where the preacher is. I say I'm going to do the right thing. And the wrong thing just creep up on me. And I find myself doing, I say, oh, Lord, I said I wouldn't go. And that's you. I thank you. I'm in somebody's house. I know. And I'm working on it. And I'm working on it. And I'm believing God that something's going to change. And if you're in that thrust and you're in that battle, I just want to encourage you, stick with it. You're in the throes of it. And God's going to help you get through it. Hallelujah. I got to finish here. The familiar battle may require a different strategy. And some of us are entering into some familiar spaces right now. Don't be deceived because you think you've been here before. Your devil has regrouped. He's coming at you with a different strategy, whether you realize it or not. Don't think because it's the same devil, it's coming the same way. David acts again because he's humble. And this time, notice what God says. Don't go up. Ooh, so glad I prayed. Because if I would have went up with the confidence I had the last time. See, this time God said, don't come at them in the face. This time God gave them an intricate strategy. Come behind them. Wait in the mulberry bushes. When you hear them coming on the ground level, come down and attack from behind. I don't know who I got in this house. I need somebody to know after this battle, some things really getting ready to change. It's been a battle. It's been a journey. You had battle 1, you had battle 2. Things were really, and you're like, God, when is it going to be over? When is it going to be over? I'm telling you, the reason God slowed you down, made you wait through this process, made you have to pray through it and seek through it and discern through it. It's because this victory is about to change some things forever. On God's timetable, this victory marks the conclusion of something. You had to fight these battles. I don't know who I'm talking to. But before you stepped into financial freedom, you had to conquer this demon of debt one more time. You had to beat it back. You needed to develop a God system that produced for you. One more time. I don't know who I'm talking to in this house. But before you could enter into the healthy marriage, you needed that confrontation one more time with the ex. I don't know who I'm talking to. You don't believe it. You don't believe it. You thought you was done with that joker. I know you was done, but God wasn't. Hold on. Sometimes before you can break into your next healthy, God says one more time, we're going to confront this that's been trying to destroy you. And before I release you into your next, we go effectively deal with this right here. Ain't nothing from your past coming to get you with where God's taking you. Nudge your neighbor and say, he did mean complete victory. I know some of you ain't ready for it. Some of you still want to play. You still want to lollygag. You still want to hold on to those excuses. But I wish somebody would get in their spirit. Bye-bye to yesterday. Bye-bye to yesterday's problems. Bye-bye to yesterday's griefs. Bye-bye to yes. I don't want to hold on to anything from back there. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to accomplish what God has already called me to accomplish. Look, don't confuse that last instruction with God's permanent instruction. God is consistent in his character, but he is not obligated to repeat himself in his methods. Somebody need to hear that again. Because you mad with God because he keep changing up on you. God ain't tell you he was going to be the same for you. Well, why is it something different every time? That's a human complaint. God is God and he's sovereign. His character is consistent. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But his method. And who are we to tell God we don't like his methods? Look at you with your arrogant self. Tell God you don't like his methods. His ways are beyond ours. His methodologies. The reason God does the things he does the way he does it is beyond finding out. But when we walk down that sweet mystery, it makes us stand in awe of him. What worked in one season is not automatically what is going to work in this next one. And this really matters, covenant, for our season of elevation. Because one of the quiet dangers of success is that we become loyal to a strategy God only gave us for one season. When churches start to grow, they start trying to repeat what they thought worked to get them. We didn't do nothing right. It wasn't no formula. The Holy Spirit is what draws. If there was any formula, it was hosting his presence. But when success start getting in, egos start getting in. We've always done it this way. When we did it this way, it worked. We gonna do it the way Apostle told us to do it. That ain't the way we started, but that ain't how this church grew. The church didn't grow with rigid rules. The church grew with God-breathed moments where somebody could say, yes, Lord, not my will, but thy will be done. Lord, this ain't my church. This ain't our church. It's your church. Have your way, Lord, in this place. Throw your weight around, oh God. Make this house a well of living water for the weary and the oppressed. And God said, I agree. Whenever you decide and resolve that you're going to take God's credit and try and formalize it and make it something, you'll find that it always come to naught. Some of you don't need more strength. You need a new position of humility to walk humbly before God. Some of you don't need to work harder. You are a hard worker. You ain't tired. You ain't tired. How long can you work 60 and 70 and 80 hours a week? How long can you work 2 jobs and 3 jobs before your body start breaking down on you? You ain't tired, beloved? Are we not tired of trying to figure it out on our own? You don't need to work harder. You just need to listen differently. Some of you don't need another attack to wake you up, even though that's what keeps coming to you. You need to hear another instruction. God is not changing the assignment as much as he is trying to give somebody in this room a new strategy. Your calling is your calling. Your promise is your promise. Your purpose is still your purpose. But insanity is to do the same thing, the same way, and expect a different outcome. God is beginning to call you to not just do it the way you did it last time, but to seek him for a new strategy. Same God, same assignment, but a different strategy. Are y'all in this room with me? Biblical consistency is not always stubbornly repeating the same thing. Being consistent to the text means I'm remaining faithful to God. I'm willing to obey God. And whatever God says do here and now, I'm willing to follow through. That's what it means for me to be biblically consistent with my faith. David is not abandoning the assignment because God changed the strategy. He's obeying the same God who gave him the assignment. And that's what we're going to have to do in this season of elevation. My third thing I want to tell you is divine timing positions us for the divine victory. Now, God tells David to reposition himself. God tells him, get behind the Philistine. God tells him to wait. God tells him, when you hear the sound going through the top of the mulberry trees, then thou shalt bestir thyself. God didn't just give him a strategy. Somebody ain't reading this with me because you don't think this is your word. Okay. God gave him a mechanism. God gave him timing. God told him how and when and where. He had to listen for a sound. He had to wait until God made the first move. And then God says, now I, the Lord, y'all looking at it, will go out before thee. That's why the strategy had to change. The first time, David went up and he fought and he got victory. And yes, it was God who powered David. But this time God says, David, I'm going to go down ahead of you. And I'm going to do the fighting for you. For then shall the Lord go out before thee. That's the part I want you to see. David is not moving to make God move. David is moving because God already. Are y'all in this house with me? That's the season we're in right now. The enemy is heightened. I don't know why he think he go get the best of us, but he's a fool. The enemy is moving every which way he can. Oh, we went through something the other month and we won in the spirit. But if you think the devil left forever, that devil regrouped. He's trying to find another end to this ministry. He's trying to find another way to wear down the saints. He's trying to find another way to cast accusations. And it's just a matter of time. But I want somebody to say, we go fight it one more time and that's going to be it. I'm being more of a prophet than some of y'all realize. I'm in the spirit. You're going to have to catch up. We're going to fight it one more time. We're going to have to deal with a little foolishness one more time. But God said it's the same devil, but I want you to employ a different strategy because the anointing I'm sending this time is about establishing. I ain't got time for it, but I'm going to help somebody that has an ear to hear what God is saying. I want to tell you, don't move because your enemy move. We are not intimidated. We don't give two flips what the devil got to say. He can flap them cheeks all he wants to, ushering threats and talking about what he go do. He is a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And he can't devour nobody God ain't gave him to devour. And since God has not appointed us to be devoured, you don't hear me in this house, we cannot be intimidated. We will not move when our enemy moves. We'll move because God moves. The Philistines can make noise all they want. They can do all the trash talking they want. Circumstances can shift, and God still says, wait. Pressure's increasing, God still says, wait. The timing is not dictated by the enemy. The timing is not dictated by that due date on that bill. The timing is not dictated by the doctor saying, if we don't catch it in this length of time, it's going to become malignant. The timing is not dictated by the world. Shout, wait on God. Somebody needs to wait on God to release the sound. Wait on God to release the strategy. Wait on God to tell you when and how, even if you just won this battle last week. Because David acts again, he received a strategy that would not have arrived with his previous experience. His experience told him how he won yesterday. Somebody write this down because we're a little bit too arrogant. Your experience tells you what you have already done. Your experience qualifies yesterday. Are y'all in this house with me? Only revelation, only consistent divine revelation can tell you what to do today. That's why you have to ask. Because to not ask denotes arrogance. It says, I already know. But I got a question. How do you know? Oh, your experience? I ain't talking about what nobody told me. I'm telling you what I know. Well, we say that with authority, too. You said that like you said something, too. You said that like what you know trump what everybody else said. Right? I get it. All of us like to hang our hat on what we know. But what if what you know is still too limited? What if your experience is a drop in the bucket to what God is? Look at somebody, say, ask. You got a bill that you can't pay. You got debt you can't get out of. You got relationship problems. Ask. Ask God for strategy. Ask God how to win. Ask God how to prevail. Ask. Look at somebody, say, ask. I know this seems like an easy word, but they've been telling us for ages to ask. They put it in a hymn. Oh, what needless pains we bear. All because we won't take it to the Lord and pray. And then they try to tell you, what a friend we have in. Okay, see, y'all ain't got no friend in Jesus. They sung that song because they really had a friend in Jesus. They was talking to all our griefs, sins, and griefs to bear. They're trying to tell you that, man, I could talk to him about any and everything. I can ask him. I want to ask somebody, when's the last time you asked him? Lord, I want to hurry up and preach. This is what I'm trying to get to this whole word. Some victories prepare you for what's coming after. All of this that was working out in David is signaling something in him. There's a reason why he can't just go and fight again. God's working out something different in David this time. If it was about fighting, you could have got the fight on and been done. And Lord knows sometimes it's easy to just fight. I don't know if y'all come from them type of backgrounds, but sometimes it's easy to just go in and fight and get it over with. Ain't nobody got time to be going back and forth with you. Ain't nobody got time to be, listen, you want to fight? Let's just go and deal with this. And we can settle it like so. And I'm sure David would have just wanted to have that one fight and be done. But God was not dealing with the fighter in David. There's a difference between the warrior you and the royal you. There's a difference between the you that's used to going at it with your hands and the you that's got to learn to govern with your mind. The you that's got to learn to settle down now because there's something after this. I'm trying to get you somewhere. Lord, I don't have time. Some victories, some fights are preparation for what comes after. Now, David does exactly what God commands him to do. And look at the scope of what happens. The Philistines are not merely inconvenienced. They are not merely slowed down. This time, they are driven back. I feel the Holy Ghost in this house. There's an anointing coming on this house and an anointing coming on this people. You are not just slowing your devil down this time. There's something coming to drive the devil back. Go touch somebody and say, drive the devil back. The text says that David strikes them from Geba unto Gesir. And I want you to see how everything begins to shift right here as he moves from Geba to Gesir. I want you to see how David is not merely surviving the attack, but the Philistines are being driven back. And that's the victory. That's the victory that sits in this whole transition of the story. And what follows after this is that David begins to bring the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, and God establishes a covenant with David. The kingdom begins to expand, and David begins to subdue the nations around him. I want you to see in the text how the narrative moves from David defending his kinship, defending his kingship, defending his right to rule, defending the fact that God chose him, to now David is establishing his kingdom. And that's what's after this. That's what's after this battle. That's what's after this war. That's why the devil came at you so hard, because he wanted you to give up, because he knew after this was not just another job, it was establishment. He knew that after this was not just another relationship, it was your God-sent marriage. And that's why the devil wanted you to give up and throw in the towel. But I hear the Holy Ghost in this house saying, don't quit now. Don't give up now. Don't throw in the towel now. God's about to show you why you're fighting this fight. Jump on your feet and shout glory. Jump on your feet and shout glory again. Shout glory. Look at verse 25. The Ark of the Covenant is what God wants to bring to Jerusalem. An abiding presence is what God wants to bring to Jerusalem. The government of God is what God wants to bring to Jerusalem. David already had the skill of fighting, but he did not know how to govern. And I want to tell somebody in this house, your fighting has required a lot of courage. Congratulations. I'm so glad you had the mind to fight. But I want to tell somebody right now that your governing is going to require some restraint. You're not going to be able to go at it like you used to. You're not going to be able to cuss folks out like you want to. You're not going to be able to tell them how you feel. You're going to have to slow down and wait on God. Go touch somebody and say, slow down. Wait on God in this season. Governing is going to require some stewardship. You can't just shoot all your ammunition away. You can't deplete all your resources. You're going to have to be strategic in this season. If God didn't say pay it off, wait a moment. You might be getting ready to work into a new season. They might decide to cancel the whole thing. Look at somebody and say, slow down. Wait a moment. God is going to show up for you. The battlefield was David's classroom. Sit down, you're going to need this. The battlefield was David's classroom. Some of you so tired of fighting, you don't understand what's going on. The battlefield, the warfare, the fight of self, the fight with your mind, the fight to conquer lower nature, the fight to persevere, that is your classroom. You can't get what God is calling you weak-minded. You got to develop a strong mind. Warfare develops a strong mind. I was talking to somebody the other day. They were talking about, so many people still in this Martin Luther King and Malcolm X split. And folks say, I can't get with Martin Because Martin was telling folks to get beat all upside the head. They say, oh no, the devil a lie. I'm with Cap Malcolm. Baby, you hit me, I'm hitting you back. You hit my cheek, I'm turning your other cheek. I'm with you, I get it. And I said, what you don't understand is Martin's strategy was about developing strong minds. He understood it wasn't about being docile. It was that if we fight like y'all want to fight, we won't live to see the future. Somebody still missed it. Understanding where we were, understanding the powers that be over us. Martin saw further. He knew if we keep fighting like this, not only will we wear ourselves out and have no strength to keep fighting, but the powers that be will crush our fight. So Martin saw by the Spirit, we got to fight this one with passive resistance. And I can tell half the church still don't know nothing about strategy. You want to go at it like you did the last one. You trying to fight them like you did the boys in the hood. This ain't the hood no more. This a new level. And all your battles ain't going to be won by going off of somebody's head. You're going to have to learn a new strategy. And so Martin said, we got to get strong minds. We got to get them somewhere and we got to help them understand. You can't fold with nobody calling you out your name. You can't fold with nobody turning a water hose on you. You can't fold with nobody sending a dog at you. And so let them sick them. Let them send them. And yet we rise, and yet we stand. Don't you understand, brothers? If we keep trying to do it like this, if we keep trying to fight it the same way, we're going to get defeat. But if we listen to the Spirit, it will follow. It will develop a strong mind. Look at somebody say, victory is sure. Breakthrough is important. We need our breakthroughs. We need our moments where we got the victory. The joy you feel when you really stood your ground and you gave it to the devil and God gave you victory is important. But brothers and sisters, establishment, longevity is going to require us to steward. Are you hearing me in this house? What resistance no longer controls. God is getting ready to cause everything the devil was trying to hold back to emerge into your life. All that warfare was trying to keep you from emerging. All of those fights were trying to keep you from emerging. You got to discern when you have emerged. And you're not going to fight those fights the same way. Amen. God gives David the type of victory that is decisive, causes him now to move into establishment and to see fulfillment of prophecy in one swoop that he had been waiting for years for. He had been anointed maybe 15, 16 years earlier. He had been anointed, and it took that long for it to come. He'd already won. That's point one. But the enemy came again, and David acts again. That's point two. God gave him a different strategy. He had to reposition. David had to wait for God's movement first. That's point three. David obeyed and God gave him the victory. That's point four. I could stop right there because I've given you a full sermon. But God gives victory to the people who ask and strategy to people who listen. God gives timing to those of us who wait patiently on him and say, Lord, you lead and I'll follow. And he will always give the victory to those of us who are obedient to him. When I keep reading, the story does not stop there. And I don't have time to finish it. I pointed to it earlier and I alluded to it. After this battle, he's established. He captures Jerusalem. The ark comes. The covenant is established. And he unifies and leads a unified kingdom. I don't know if I got anybody in this house. The victory that's coming after this, brothers and sisters, is going to show you that every bit of this fight was worth it. Your willingness to ask God again may be connected to your ability to hear what God is saying next. Somebody needs to stop right now. I had to be humbled when I was preparing this word because I was working on something from a different angle when I came to it. I was working on a charge to us. And I was going to stop at Baal Perazim. I was going to stop at Baal Perazim because I was excited about the breakthrough. But God said, look again. And he cued me in. He said, there's another battle coming, but this battle is about to signal everything that the oil's already announced. And if you don't prepare the church, they'll think this battle meant they missed God. Because if it was of God, why it came back again? I thought I beat this the first time, and I did it with the help of God. I prayed. I asked God. He gave me that breakthrough. And if I didn't help you understand that some breakthroughs God will give, and then he'll send the same devil again, and that breakthrough won't be for the same reason. This time it'll be a breakthrough in you. Yes, Lord. This time it'll be sealing something in you. The first time was to send a signal to your devil. This time God wants to send a signal to, do you know who God is? And I'll tell you something, there's some things I thought I knew about God until I got to a new battle. Mama, I'm so glad he let me go through it again until it got solidified. I thought I knew him as a way maker last time. And then I got to this crisis and I had doubt. I got to this crisis and I had doubt. How? Why? I don't know. But I know he did it before. I know he did it before. He has to let me get here again. Not to show my devils what he'll do, but because I'm still doubting him. So I get another battle, another situation where he shows up again as a waymaker. And he'll do it again and again and again until my confidence is secured in him. How many of you are tracking with me today? After this particular battle, saints, you're getting ready to see a different type of promotion and look at somebody and say, you belong there. The battle that you're going through is not going to take you out. It's not going to take you out. You're going to win this battle decisively and again. You're going to drive the enemy back this time. You're going to drive him back. Something's getting ready to happen for many of you financially because that's your area of grief. And I want you to know God's got your number. If anybody in your shoes has ever made it out, you're going to be able to make it out too. With the help of God, you're going to beat that. And somebody else, it's not the financial stuff as much as it is the emotional and the mental stuff for you. If the truth be told, if you could stay in a good place mentally and emotionally, you can command a little bit more. But you battle so much with these lows and you try not to complain and you don't want to make an issue of it and you don't want to seem like you can't handle life. And I even see where some people look out and over and they say, man, I don't know how people do it. They seem so strong and they just compare as they look out at other people and they feel more and more dejected, more and more like they can't keep up. And I just want to rebuke that devil in the name of Jesus. You may not see that some people are literally standing up with worship and prayer. It ain't nothing going no better in their life. They just believe God. And I want you to know that as we're believing God for breakthroughs in our own life, we believe God for breakthroughs in your life. Somebody, you just need to get through this battle. I don't know who I'm talking to. It seems to be the ultimate battle of your life. You're fighting something deep and dark within yourself. And I'm going to tell somebody, I think this is next level salvation. When God sure enough free you from your old man and that old nature. Don't throw in the towel there. After this is coming a decisive victory that positions you for your destiny. I didn't have time to expound upon this like I want, but practically somebody is under review right now. You're getting ready to step into a new position of authority, but you can't be so easily rattled. I could tell you in corporate America, there would be times we would be eyeing people for promotion. And I know because I was in the room to help make the decision. And we would make the decision that maybe within the next promotion cycle, this person seems to be a good candidate. Now, all of us would have the assignment to watch them the next 30, 45, 60 days until that next window come up. I'll be doggone. Some of the people, as soon as you start watching them, they come to work late. They play games with their breaks. They be clocking extra minutes. They clock out early. Come on now. How you gonna clock in late and clock out early? And then we'll get to the day of promotion and their name comes up. But now the record gets called. I don't know who I'm talking to. Some of you are being tested right now. You're at your door of promotion and you got to tighten up. If you can't handle the freedoms and the liberties you have right now, it signals you can't handle the power that comes with the next. I don't have anybody in this house. If you can't get to work on time, you can't call nobody else out for coming to work late. Am I talking to anybody's house? And some of you are sabotaging your promotion. You're sabotaging your next because every time the battle comes, you try and fight it the same old way. You still think somebody's trying to pull you under. You still think somebody's trying to hold you back. No, God's trying to send people in your life now that are shaping you up because you got kingship ahead of you. You got queenship ahead of you. You got a throne to sit on. How many understand what I'm saying? And walking and sitting in royal spaces is different than wearing an army fatigue and battle gear and being out there ready to fight. Am I making sense to you? This church is about to shift. We're about to shift into our royal days. We're about to shift into our governing days. We're about to move from fighting so many battles to being established and ruling. Stand on your feet with me because that means something. That means every devil that can come to try and make you a subservient peasant who doesn't know how to rule and to reign in this season with God will come. The devil's going to send everything conceivable to remind you of how low you are, how undeserving you are, how you ain't nobody, you can't walk in this, who told you you're going to have that? And he sends all of those distractors to say, even if they did get it done, it'll collapse. But I rebuke every negative voice in the name of Jesus. And I want to pray for those who are in battles right now. And young David, you got to ask God for the new strategy, but you're going to win here. You wouldn't be fighting like this if promotion was not at hand. And promotion's at hand. And promotion is at hand. I want to pray for every person who's battling emotionally, who's battling financially, who's battling relationally, in a way that you feel that you are stuck with all of these battles. You can't see the future for having to fight a new battle. About time you get out of one battle, you enter another battle. And you say, Lord, I can't keep fighting battles. I want to say after this, I know you're tired of fighting. After this battle, you're going to have a decisive win and promotion is at your door. I just need to help you get through this battle. Come here. Come on, let's help you get through this battle. Help you get through this battle. After this one, I just need to help you get through this battle emotionally, mentally, financially. There is a promotion on the other side. There is increase